This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this Friday evening? I hope you're doing well. Well, tonight we're going to talk about on the live stream what's going on in Portland with INS, the cops, the mayor, the city council and stuff. Trump calling it a war zone. And anyway, we're going to talk about that. And then what Trump was saying in that Tuesday meeting to the generals about our cities need to be used as training grounds for the military. That really bothers me, okay? Saying the Marine Corps, I never, ever once trained to deal with American citizens. And it's not just a good sign. And, what do we have what do they have combat towns on our military bases for us to train in if they need to use their cities? But that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I don't like the military in the streets, but hey, Jeff, how's it going? Glad to see you. But I got another idea how the government can solve these sanctuary cities. Anyway, we'll talk about that. But I guess we got to discuss stuff. Wait for some people to show up. But I tell you what, I'm going to hit YouTube a little harder again. I'm going to sit there. I want to build my channel. And I'm going to sit there, and I've taken some time off, tried that way, and my channel ain't growing. So I'm going to hit it hard again. I'm going to go at these subjects like you need to, because frankly, there's so much going on in today's world, just in our country, that I could do 2 live streams a day. Looking forward to the discussion. Oh, it's going to be a good one. Be ready to sit there and do the old blue red stuff, Jeff, because you know me, I can sit there and piss anybody off, right? Anyway, I had to listen to the truth growing up. That's all I listened to my whole life. That's what I was forced to tell. And I'm not going to sit there and, we got a world on fire. Last thing we need to do is be thinking that it's nothing but gumdrops and rainbows, because it's not. Anyway, Jeff, I'm waiting for some people to show up. Oh, there we got some. YouTube, I tell you what, they're pretty hard on me. Anyway, so let's jump into the discussion. Portland, Oregon. Okay, just the same as, well, it's a little worse than it was in Los Angeles and California, because the Portland police here are doing nothing. The mayor's asking them to stand down and stuff. But let's first get into not what the mayor said about it's only one street. Okay, let's not get into that. Let's talk about why these people are doing this. Now, you are trying to defend people that have broken the law in this country. I mean, the easiest way to solve this problem is if all the people that were here illegally would just leave. But I know we can never get that, can we? Hey, by the way, before we get started, like I say, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and the bell notification. Help this channel grow, because there's a world of hurt coming down, and the truth needs to be spread before you got to deal with the truth as it's a mob coming down your street. Okay, and that's what a lot of people are going to be dealing with. By the way, are you a communist? Absolutely not. In the Marine Corps, I was taught to hate 2 things desperately: communists and terrorists. And it seems like they're the ones in charge of our country now, isn't it? Anyway, but getting back to these people that in Portland and stuff. I mean, I was watching videos today while they arrested that one YouTuber or whatever, social media investigative journalist out there because he put out that flag that was on fire. But well, you had 2 guys duking it out. One that was for ICE and one that was for the immigrants. Duking it out. Nobody stopped it. Cops didn't even stop it. But the pro-ICE guy knocked out the other guy. I shouldn't laugh. But this is what this is coming to. I mean, they're sitting there, taunting these officers. I tell you what, if somebody like me were to sit there and do that to any type of authority figure, especially one that has a gun and a badge, Okay, we all know that you get thrown to the ground, get the shit kicked out of you, and the judge, that's the brother-in-law, wouldn't give a shit about it in the morning. Now, I don't like the military in our cities. I'll be the first one to say that. But why are they there? Why did they have to go to D.C.? Because cops aren't doing their job and people aren't safe. I'm totally against it. I am completely against troops in the city. Like I say, in the Marine Corps, I never, ever, ever trained to deal with American civilians. I trained to deal with America's enemies. But then again, our government may look at us that way, right? But, all these people acting up in these cities, and cops and we have more troops in more cities and stuff, and they just keep acting up. Don't they realize that the Republicans now, the mega people, the people in charge, are using the Democrats' useful idiots to gain control? They're using the less foot soldiers, pissing them off so they do all this crazy shit so they can sit there and send troops into these cities. When are they going to leave? I don't know. Probably never, right? Can we get rid of the illegals in this country? Can we enforce the laws in this country like they're enforced on me and you? I mean, we can't even speed. I don't speed anyway. I'm older. I'm never in a hurry to get anywhere anymore. I want to throw out the old anchor to slow time down. But, I live out here in Leave It to Beaverland, in a county that has less than 2,000 people in it. Okay, and I'm watching all this stuff unfold. It's like, how are you people in the city putting up with this shit? With all the violence that could come down your street at any time. All over protecting people that aren't even supposed to be in this country. Us taxpayers are sick and tired of paying all these goddamn taxes. Especially for non-Americans. They don't deserve nothing. I'm sorry to say, but if they want to sit there and make their lives better, go back to your country and do something to straighten it up and make your lives better. Make your lives better for your future generations in your own country. Okay? You're just coming up here and destroying our country the same way you destroyed yours. By the way, all these people that, Portland, you want to sit there and take on ICE and think you're going to beat them? I mean, they want to have this civil war, right? Okay. Let me tell you the difference between somebody who's motivated, a trained, a lot of vets out there. I realize there's some on the left. But a lot of us vets out there, the difference between us is watch the first part of Saving Private Ryan where they're storming the beach, being shot at and shit. And then watch one of these protests when all of a sudden these INS agents come out with just paint pellet guns. What do these guys do? They go running the other way, scattering like a bunch of chickens that a fox just spotted. Really? And you're going to take on real men? This is just one thing they need to think about before they get really stupid. And another thing, as long as I'm on this little rant, okay? If you're dumb enough to sit there and stand in front of a moving vehicle on a road and sit down, you're smart enough to get hit by them. If you're, I learned when I was like 2 or 3 when my mom, don't go on the street, you'll get hit by a car. Now, if you're in your 30s and you haven't learned that yet, well, how do we solve that problem? 2 or 3 times where people don't stop and just mow everybody over in their way and get away with it. I mean, me personally, in my truck, I see that shit. We never see it around here because, like you say, I leave it to Beaverland. If they tried to bring this Twilight Zone shit here, oh my God. That's why I say I watch this stuff on TV and I compare it to the life I live. We would never put up with that shit, no matter what political party you belong to. Like say I live in a town where you don't have to lock your doors. You don't have to take keys out of your vehicle and shit. Think we're going to allow what's happening in Portland, in LA, in Chicago, that to happen here? When it finally affects us, those cities have already burnt to the ground. Anyway, but then okay, I don't understand why they're doing it. But this is, and then this mayor goes, well, it's only one block. Well, I guess it's not his block, but he telling the police they can't act. They can't do their job, protect the citizens of their city. I mean, these mayors shouldn't have control of their police force because this is the shit that happens. I mean, a city makes a charter with the state to take care of their people and stuff. Well, you know, and then they're trying to sit there. That one lady got pepper sprayed in the face by that federal. You know, maybe they're getting a little freaking pissed off that somebody's 2 inches away from their face, screaming at them, and they can't do nothing. And then they want to sit there and investigate the INS agent, the Fed? Really? And some lady reporter gets a black eye from some Antifa stupid scumbag hitting her with the flag, and they don't do nothing? I guess they're looking for her now. You know, if you're in Portland, every time I saw a cop, I'd flip him off. Fuck you. Do you think I'd listen to him? Do you think I'd stop for a Portland cop if he was going to pull me over when I know he didn't do anything? Fuck no. I mean, it's worse than the damn mafia, and they're just open about it. And then the mayor, what a cock-sucking piece of shit. You know, fudge-packing fool. Yeah, I said that about him. A fucking gay bastard. Homosexual. Anyway, but you know how we can solve this, Trump? I tell you how you can solve this so easy. Another one of Hidden Truths, Tom's solutions to the problem. Since you don't want to shoot your guns at these bastards, that you declared a terrorist organization, Antifa, since you're not going to treat them like the terrorists, how we treated the terrorists when I was overseas, since we're not going to do that, then I tell you what you do. You pull all the troops back, pull them all out of the city, and siege the city. Nobody in or out, no supplies in or out. The only way you get out is if you show your ID and prove you're not an asshole, make sure you're not a warrant or illegal. And if you, and it's another thing about these people. These people that get arrested and then taken into the ICE facility, how about putting them on a plane and kicking them back to the country that they're supporting? They lose their citizenship, flat out. Flat out. They leave with the illegals. By the way, surround the city. Nobody interrupt. Lay siege to the city. In soft-ass America, when the mayor knows I'm fucked, because who's the first person all these people are going to go to? Do you think they're going to go fight the military at these places? Hell no. They're chicken shit. That's all you got to do. The thing is, it's time to make an example. That's what it's time to do before we have troops in every city. But then my mind kind of goes down the rabbit hole, right? And it's like, are the Republicans really not? They're kind of more or less stimulating the problem by getting it more excitable instead of solving it, so we can have troops in all these cities. Because this is why I say this. They're not solving the problem. They could solve the problem real easy. Tom Homan, right? We're going to arrest these governors and mayors that interfere, right? Really? Really, Tom Homan? Another tough-talking beta male that's in D.C. Tough-talking beta male. Because that would solve the problem. Then these Prickster and all these other idiot Governor Newsom would all wake up and understand, hey, they're done with this shit, sanctuary cities and states. How can you have a sanctuary city? Safe? We're not even safe in our churches anymore. But anyway, yeah, do that. Pull the troops out and secure the city, besiege it. It wouldn't take that much. It wouldn't take that many troops, especially in Portland. There aren't that many roads going in and out. And just lock the damn city down. How about the government turn it into Chaz? Or remember Chaz and Chop back in the, when was that, 2020? Chaz and Chop in Seattle and Portland. Why don't we just turn the whole fucking city of Portland into Chop? And then they can sit there and make a garden and think they're going to have tomatoes the next day. That's how stupid these fucking people are. Remember that news when the news people were, oh, look at, they made a garden. Really? I did that when I was 4. I'm glad when they're in their fucking 20s and 30s, they're smart enough to throw a seed in the ground, but still didn't grow. But that would shock America, but it would put an end to this shit without anybody getting killed. Because sooner or later, people are going to get killed. I mean, you guys didn't learn the real history about the Boston Tea Party. The soldiers that fired into the crowd were protecting themselves. Yes, the Patriots got way out of hand that day, night in 1773 in Boston. But the soldiers were protecting themselves from the mob. What do you think's going to happen when some armed INS agents gets off there by himself and he's got a gang attacking him, about to attack him, and he's armed with a rifle with live rounds? You know, John Adams defended the Boston Massacre soldiers and got them off. He believed in everybody's right to a fair trial. The second president of the United States defended the soldiers of the Boston Massacre. Those men were very exceptional back then. Very exceptional. How that group of men all came together in history at the same time, in the same place, I don't know. Okay, it's sure not happening today. But, I'm glad I got to live at least part of my life under our parents even said we didn't know what freedom was, but, I was born in 67 and, the 80s was one awesome decade to sit there and grow up in. I mean, you still have, the 80s music is almost 50 years old and you got 45 years old and you still got a lot of radio stations that played the 70s and 80s. In the 80s, I never had the radio stations that were playing music from the 30s and 40s. Anyway, great time to grow up in. But that sure has changed, hasn't it? Now we're going to get into what Trump said about training. Troops should be training in our cities. Okay, most major bases have a combat town where you train for combat in cities and stuff, taking over rooms and that type of stuff. And I don't understand why he would even mention training the troops in our cities. This is beyond stupid. And anybody's for that, you know what? They're not just going to be dropping out of helicopters and stuff in the middle of the night, waking you up and, getting you used to all that shit. But they're also going to be practicing military checkpoints where you got to drive through a military checkpoint like you are in a foreign enemy country. Let me see your papers. See, I need to start making money on YouTube so I can get out and live like that. Okay, I want to even get further away from how I'm living because, like I say, eventually it will come out here, even in this small area. But it'll never be out there. I mean, we don't have no Starbucks or Walmart here, but anyway, crazy time. But yeah, Trump, we need to start training in the cities. And these cities just keep more fighting and becoming more dangerous and giving them more reason to put more troops in more cities. God, Americans just can't get the hell along, can they? Can they? Anyway, hey, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the bell notification. YouTube's doing its usual thing, being as hard as hell on me. They just don't want the truth out there. They want, they're another one. They want this hate and discontent, because the last thing they want is a Democrat and a Republican coming together and say, you know what? We actually agree on some things. I can see that the government's stroking us and trying to get us to hate each other and stuff. And why are politicians always on television preaching to us and telling us how we're supposed to think and feel, right? They're working for us. We need to be telling them how we think, how they need to think and feel. Or they don't go back to D.C. to serve us. Anyway, but we get troops training in their cities. Okay, I thought we would just send troops to cities and take over the major communication and transportation hubs in the country and seize control of the country like that. But like I say, these useful idiots on the left are just giving him the ammunition to do it. I mean, there's no way you're going to beat the federal government. Not you liberal politicians. But see, I almost think they're on the same side. How can a mayor sit there and tell the cops not to enforce the law on just one block of his city? Just one block. Were they having the purge on this block? Is the purge allowed now on this block? And get away with it and not be arrested. They got to be in cahoots. Both sides are working together and playing the useful idiot. See, because all through Biden, us conservatives just sat back and say, 4 more years. 4 more years we can deal with this, right? And we'll get Trump back into office and da-da-da-da-da. And boy, did that all go. J99 incoming. Hey, I appreciate you guys being here. You moderators are great, by the way. I realize I stir up a lot of controversy in the chat, and I don't read the chat much because I always got too much to say. But I appreciate you guys monitoring the chat and stuff, and because we don't need adult children in it. We need people that want to come here and discuss how we can solve these problems and come together. But you live in the big city. Trump's basically sitting there saying, the troops are coming. The troops are coming. And, one thing when you go training somewhere, even if it's in the States and it's like out in the desert, like when we go to do a CAC, a 29 Palms in the Marine Corps, 3-week desert exercise, they had A-frames out in the desert that you still stayed in sometimes when you weren't out in the field. So they're going to need places to keep these troops that are going to be coming to the cities to train. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I realize people in the big city are happy in D.C. and stuff, in D.C. that the crime is down. But if you were so pissed off at the crime, wouldn't it have been a lot easier to get the mayor out of there and elect the city council mayor that would enforce the laws and stuff instead of having the military there? And it was for 30 days and now it's till December. I think they're leaving in December. DC will always now have some type of contingency of military in the city. Always. Chicago, always. Portland now, always. Because they're going to be training there. Like I say, I never once trained in the Marine Corps to sit there and deal with American civilians. That was never part of the curriculum. But then again, why do I get so excited? Because what I dealt with overseas, because we dealt with it overseas, so it wouldn't have to deal with it here. Now in my 50s, late 50s, I'm dealing with the same stuff in my country that I dealt with overseas. It's just I'm in a safe zone. If I were in a big city, well, I've been out of there a long time ago. I'm not going to sit there and try to fight a fight that I can't win. I'll sit there and get out of Dodge. Okay, live to fight another day. But yours in the big city, it's just problems over the next 3 years, and then if the Democrats take the presidency and the Senate and the Congress and the House in 2028, anybody in MAGA can totally understand what's coming. Remember what happened to the J6 protesters after Biden got office within the first 100 days? Oh, by the way, Trump, you still haven't arrested anybody in your first, we're getting up to 200 days now and you still haven't arrested anybody? Promises, promises, promises. Bunch of goddamn shit. I just think it's nothing but they're all on the same side, playing us all against each other. And, good cop, bad cop. It just depends on what side you're on, who's the good cop and who's the bad cop. If you were still active, would you follow orders to fire on American citizens? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No matter how much I disagreed with them. I took an oath to protect the Constitution, and the American people were part of that. I don't care if you disagree with me. I don't care what you do in your goddamn bedroom. That doesn't matter. That is an unlawful order. And then when they make it a lawful order, no, I want them. If I would have had an officer that would have gave an order like that, I would have been trying to arrest the officer. As a sergeant, my guys would have never fired on American soldiers, on American citizens. Ever. God, I can't even imagine what the mindset in the military is like now. For them to sit there, when I went in, we didn't have all this division and hate in the country. Yeah, people didn't agree with us, but we didn't sit there and want to kill each other over it. We had an election, and the next day, everything went on. It was completely different back then, but no, firing on American citizens, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? Now, if we are in a civil war and the other American citizens on the other side, well, he's the enemy then. We're not in a civil war yet, so no liberal is my enemy. Okay? He's still an American to me, who has a right to voice his opinion. I just think the thing is, you have a right to voice it, but nobody has to agree with it or live the way you live or accept your lifestyle. If you're happy with yourself, what somebody else thinks of you should never frickin' matter. Our money used to have written on it back in the old days, mind your own business. Instead of in God we trust, mind your own business. That's some damn good advice, isn't it? Anyway, so where was I at now? I lost my train of thought. Like I say, I sit out here and Leave It to Beaverland, and I watch this shit going on, and I hear the president saying this garbage, and MAGA's behind him. If that was Biden saying that shit, I mean, really? Our country, like I say, is totally FUBAR now. Completely FUBAR. And the thing is, it's going to come down to a fight to fix it. We ain't going to vote our way out of this. Our politicians have become so corrupt. I mean, now they're talking about, let's give them $1,000 or $2,000 inflationary tax rebate, right? So they're going to give every taxpayer or every citizen $1,000 or $2,000, and then in 2 years or 3 years you got to pay back $8,000. I mean, where's all this money coming from? The government should not be in the business of passing out money to anybody except who their creditors are. All these social programs are so against what the founding fathers wanted. Okay? Give the farmers $14 billion. Really? Buy votes. They just buy votes with our money. I've worked in agriculture my whole life, but I'm totally against agriculture subsidies, paying people not to work their land, paying people to do nothing so they control the price of grain. And they pay them millions of dollars. And these farmers will sit there and cut down somebody who's in the welfare office as they're going to the FSA office to get their check for, I don't know, $100,000, but they don't call that welfare. Really? All this giving money away, food stamps, all this shit needs to stop. We got so many jobs in this country being held by foreigners and illegals that if we get rid of them over a couple months, cancel their visas, kick them the hell out, open all these jobs, especially in agriculture. Like I say, you know how hard it is to get a job in agriculture if you're a white guy, a white American? Next to impossible. Because I guess Americans don't want to do those jobs except me. I love getting out there, dealing with the cold, dealing with the heat, getting my hands dirty, being out in those pastures in the middle of nowhere and putting up fence. Working godly hours and stuff. Not for everybody, but it's for me. But see, now I'm not allowed to do that because other Americans don't want to do that. So we got to bring foreigners in to do it. And then plus all these visas, these work visas, do you realize that pretty much 3/4 of the salary that they pay these foreigner workers, the government reimburses the employer for it out of our tax dollars? So not only am I losing a job, but our tax dollars are paying, incentivizing these ranchers and farmers to hire these people. Yeah, look into H-1B visa program. I've worked with these people. I actually had to live with them at the ranch. 2 South Africans that sat there and had a way better deal than I did in my country. A cold beer tastes better after a day of hard work. Yep, cold beer, steak on the grill. I tell you what, DC, I'm sure you've seen some of my videos. I tell you what, I need to go back up to the Sandhills for a while. Anyway, I tell you what, I finally started getting monetized on YouTube. I got enough subscribers now. Now they're chicken dicking me on my hours watched. I mean, I sometimes would get 200 hours of watch time in one day. Now I'm lucky if I get 6 or 7. Don't worry, I'm sure it's not the algorithm. Okay, I'm sure everybody just hates what I got to say. Anyway, but that's life. This is the country we live in these days. Things may sit there and get stupid in a couple months or next spring, and I won't even be on YouTube no more. But see, I get to react. Okay, meaning I have, I don't have to. I can escape anyway. I don't feel in danger by these people. These people would never come out here. Like say they come out here, little town, everything's on little main street, no Starbucks, no coffee house, no Walmart. Oh my God, one little gas station. We better get out of here. But like I say, when it does come to affect me, the cities are already going to be burning down. So now not only was I overseas dealing with the stuff, so I wouldn't have to deal with it in America, which now I don't have to deal with it in America. Everybody in the city has to, welcome to what, when you have that mob coming down the street, shooting your windows out and stuff. Anyway, crazy time. And our politicians are just yucking it up, right? The new normal where nobody's safe anymore. You sit there and say too much to these other side and upset them, all of a sudden they decide they can put a bullet in you if they want. These are dangerous people. There's a lot of sick crimes going on right now. I think a lot of it has to do with people's brains may not be functioning correctly due to the lack of oxygen or something because of the pharmaceutical companies, what they did with the help of the government. Anyway, so, but I guess old Trump sits there and he's calling Portland a war zone now. We need to, Department of Defense, Department of War. See, anybody seeing the signs? Give as many troops as needed to sit there and save Portland, take over, the Portland war zone. And the left, useful idiots, are just pushing harder. I mean, if Trump has ulterior motives, he's going to wipe out the left and take control of us all at the same time. I don't know what's going on. I don't like the troops in the street. I don't like the troops training in their cities. I definitely don't like our cities burning down. I don't like the cops standing down. I don't like these mayors and governors that talk this stupid, unconstitutional, non-law abiding shit. And I'm sick and tired of seeing cops that have families too having to take this shit. Antifa is an enemy, a terrorist organization. Do you think I took down terrorists with a paintball gun? Start using lethal force on these sons of bitches. You want to sit there and solve the problem. Like I say, we could solve this problem in one night. Or pull the troops out and surround the city. Besiege the city. And who cares what the news says? Who cares about the hard luck stories and all this shit? The shit needs to end. It's violence every damn day. And like I say, I don't see the government doing anything to fix it. They're just stroking the situation. Instead of calming it down, they're doing shit to flare it up. I mean, INS, get rid of the illegals. It's easy. All you do is tell the American citizen, hey, I deputize all American citizens, law-abiding American citizens, to clean up your city or your county, meaning that all you do is have jurisdiction in your city or your county, and you sit there and you take these illegals, you capture them, you take them to a rendezvous point where the government comes, picks them up, which would be a lot cheaper, and then give everybody $1,000 bounty for every illegal he's got. Let the Americans make some money off of this. Okay, within 72 hours, all the illegals will be gone. 90% of them because they left on their own. But see, that would solve the problem. And here lies the problem. They don't want to solve the problem. They want to make it worse. So they can sit there and bring troops into more cities and gain more control. So we can be training our troops in the cities and then have barracks in the cities and have continuous Humvees and tanks driving through the city. Where do we see that? Oh, that would be on the news about other countries. That's what we got to do to make this country safe? How about we go back to being a moral people in the Constitution of the United States and sit there and punish the real criminals of this country called the politicians? D14, not due process. Due process? An illegal does not have due process. When you are committing a crime, I'm so ticked and tired. So the Constitution covers everybody in the world, right? Our Constitution don't cover people that are here illegally. I'm so sick of this shit. So sick of this shit. And one day when us Americans start fighting with each other, you guys are all going to run like cowards, because if you study our first Civil War, you don't want to be between Americans when they're pissed off at each other, because you're going to be caught in the crossfire. And by the way, our money ain't going to be worth shit anyway. I mean, what would the illegals do if our money wasn't worth shit? We didn't have no social services programs and we became a third world country overnight, what we're going to do when our money becomes worthless, you all be gone. You all be gone. When the peso is worth more than $1, you all be gone. Okay, you're like a parasite. You're going to destroy the host and kill it, and then you're going to be gone, 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 gone. And the American spirit will bring this country back up more powerful than it ever was. And believe me, we're going to learn from the mistakes that our politicians have made today. Okay, and we will have an armed border. Anyway, just a word from a Marine. I believe we should have a machine gun nest every 100 yards with barbed wire and shit with a bunch of signs and loudspeakers saying you sit there, come at the wire, you will be shot. And then commence fire. Illegal immigration solved in about 5 seconds. Isn't that hard, terrible of me to say shit like that? Isn't that just terrible for a Marine to sit there and say that about his enemy? Fuck no. And that's a mindset a lot of people need to get into. Calm down. Calm down. I love it. Marine Corps, calm down. Calm down, Marine. Yeah, that's when I said I went in the chopper to my men. We were about going to a high LZ. Just calm down, man. Just calm down. Fucking dumbass civilians. But don't worry. You can stay calm as the mob's coming down your road because nobody's going to be there to save you. Okay? I know, I'm sick of it, DC. You know, I want to solve these problems. But like I say, that's my backup. I need to get to that. Next year, I want to get to that. Living in my dugout with my horses in the mountains. Away from people. Okay, completely. Independent and on my own. And still have power and hot water and all that shit. You know, it's nice having skills and knowledge and abilities and being somebody who didn't sit in one office for 40 years and do the same thing over and over, but sat there and learned new things all the time. To have skills, very important. Especially when, we live in an automated society. All you got to do is call. You got the money, ching, ching. Money makes your life convenient. What are you going to do when the convenience is gone? I live a simple, humble life. Convenience means nothing to me. I hate it. Like I say, I still use a scoop shovel to shovel snow. I still use a maul to split my wood. I still use a push mower to mow my lawn. Okay? But the rest of the world, you guys can do it your way and then make sure you sit in the doctor's office at least 10 hours a month. I don't have to do that either. That's another thing about getting your health in order. Things are headed down the wrong path here. And, when Trump's saying what he's saying, because they say it first, right? First it was just troops in D.C., well, then they might go to the other cities. Oh, now we might also use our cities for training grounds. Oh, my God. But don't worry, everybody. I'm sure everything will be fine. I'm sure our government has our best interests in mind. Can you imagine Ronald Reagan saying that? Even or even Joe Biden saying something like that? Like I say, now Trump is using the useful idiots on the left to gain control. Eradicate them and gain control. Because like I said, has anybody heard when these troops are leaving these cities yet? Anybody? I had a smart ass in here when they first went to DC and he said, they'll be gone in 30 days. Well, 30 days long past. Once the government gets their foot in the door, and then, then we could have gun confiscation. Remember, you got the right wing leaning, hey, let's take it away from all transgenders and stuff. Well, then if we take, you infringe on one American's rights who hasn't done nothing to sit there and get his rights taken from him, if you allow them to infringe one person's rights, you just authorize the government to sit there and infringe on everybody's rights. Remember that when you sit there and want to take the rights away from people that are exercising them legally, but just not the way you would, okay? Rights are a double-edged sword. That's why it's best to stay in the middle instead of on the edges. You may get cut. Anyway, let's see. When Trump said use the military to practice in our cities, Trump been arrest. Yeah, but we live in a crazy world. Wait. Why do you think the Democrats aren't fighting this? Why do you think the Democrats are saying this fucking bullshit? Because they know they're going to be in office again, and they're going to sit there and use this to their advantage. To sit there and support the Democrat democracy and turn the Republican democracy into a bunch of scared-ass sheep. Why would they stop Trump? They just want to make sure there's not a civil war. But see, the one thing the left leaders don't realize, you don't have control over these people no more. They're mindless fools that are on all these medications. They can't think straight. They can't rationalize their emotions. I mean, obviously, if you're going up and hitting a cop, you're not rationalizing your emotions. And they're letting them get away with this. I mean, they're like taunting him, and then Trump and is all trolling the other side. And then our side laughs about it. Are you kidding me? When is it presidential to troll your own citizens? Like I say, as a Marine, I don't care how you vote, what gender you are, what color you are, what nationality you are, you're an American. Okay? Yeah, I deal with buttheads on my live stream chat sometimes, but they want to make it personal, but still, if it came to protecting their lives, even though they were an asshole to me, I guess that's what my oath was for. Not to be picky and choosy about it. Anyway, like I said, I've been in countries before where we had military troops in the cities, sitting in the restaurants with their weapons and stuff. Do you want to live in that in the United States? Go into a restaurant and see a bunch of Marines or soldiers in a restaurant with their weapons, fully ready to go to war, eating in the same restaurant as you? People say, well, it'll make you feel safe. Really? Like I say, we're just slipping into what I saw 40 years ago overseas. Crazy time. I never ever thought in my life I would have saw in the United States what I dealt with overseas. I never thought in a million years. But anyway, here we are. I mean, I can't. The mayor, the police chief, and city council in Portland and in Chicago, okay, you're breaking the law. You're breaking your oaths because you're choosing to use your political beliefs to determine who you're going to sit there and protect. But it's your job to protect everybody. But you're going to be picky and choosy. Nope, they don't agree with me, so screw them. Your oath it's got to be blind that you take to your country and your fellow citizen. Has to be blind, just like the lady holding the scales. Your oath has to be blind. It can't be swayed one way or the other. It's not about protecting a political idea. It's about protecting America and American citizens and the Constitution, what made this country great. Portland and Chicago governments is crazy. Yeah, and you got Los Angeles, Governor Newsom, the whole state of California. And then let's not forget they're probably going to be in Seattle. I heard Memphis. Aren't they in Baltimore? The only place they ain't yet is New York. And then, like I say, practicing. Yeah, they're going to practice in cities, taking over cities, just like they would overseas. Checkpoints you got to go through, papers you got to have, curfews and shit. Everybody ready for that? But they're just practicing, right? Until everybody gets used to it. God, I am so going to be gone. You see that? If I ever got to deal with this shit out and something like that, well, there ain't going to be too many people I have to deal with, okay? It's going to get crazy. Now, out here in this area, since we're flyover country, they probably have to use a lot of drones to control this area. There's a lot of ground, a lot of open area, that it'd be hard to have a military checkpoint. Me being on a horse, I could sit there, a four-wheeler. I'm mobile as can be, but, anyway, it'd be harder to secure this area. But you in the cities? Anyway, so what are the odds? Hey, Donald Trump, if you're seeing this, pull the troops out, surround the city, close the city off. If they want to get out, show proper ID, make sure they're not a piece of shit. Let them out and just surround the criminals until they just destroy themselves. Okay, let the mayor be a mayor of a freaking graveyard then. And then nobody gets hurt except the criminals. Donald Trump, turn Portland into CHOP. Let them have all of Portland. Surround it. Let them have the whole Portland area for CHOP. And just cut them all. And the electricity, anything that's federally funded, that would be interstate highways, all electricity, all communications, cut them off. Within 48 hours, they'll be waving the white flag. But like I say, that would solve the problem. And herein lies the problem. They don't want to solve the problem. I do believe they're all working together, people, because like I say, if a politician's allowed to get away with this, if illegals are allowed to get away with this and stay in these peaceful Antifa protesters are allowed to do this shit. Who got killed on January 6th? Oh, that would mean January 6th, but no cops. But anyway. But I think Trump even said something about insurrection. Anyway, they're just giving him the power he needs, the fuel he needs to sit there and add fuel to this fire. I'm not even going to say put it out. Add fuel to this fire. Like, there's plenty of plans on the table to sit there and snuff this little bullshit out in all these cities. Make an example of Portland. Chicago will whip into shape. Governor Newsom will whip into shape. Arrest these people. They're guys in this country that should be subject to the same laws I am. Arrest them. I don't know why they're allowed to get away with this shit. Anyway. Oh, I've been going for almost an hour already. Yeah, deport them all. They all need to go. America is for Americans. The American culture, the American idea. But for some reason, we treat it like it's worth nothing. Our citizenship's worth nothing. Our culture's worth nothing. That's what they sit there and treat it like. And now our money's become worth nothing. Our word has become worth nothing. Anyway, that's another thing. When the economy collapses, well, then they won't be worried about illegals because they'll be starving. And then they'll have something else to protest about. But all I got to do is tell them people, remember, the politicians always told you were going to have money in your hand every month, not the American citizen. American citizen would have rather you just went to a job every day and came home with a paycheck. Anyway, I want to see the Muslims kicked out first. You know, the thing is, when we went to, the Marine Corps in from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Well, the shores of Tripoli comes from when Thomas Jefferson sent the Marines out to the Mediterranean to deal with the Muslim pirates, and went to Tripoli. Okay. And Thomas Jefferson read a copy of the Quran because he wanted to understand his enemy. And he said, all Americans need to realize this to understand their enemies, just a really sick person, okay? He thought it should be required reading so we all understand our enemy. So we've been dealing with Muslims too now that was in 1803, I think. So 222 years ago, we were dealing with the Muslim pirates. Bad people just never go away, do they? Never go away. I mean, I don't understand. I can't imagine being, I don't want to live like that. Obviously, I don't want to sit there and tell somebody else how to live or get in anybody else's business. I like my peace and quiet, and I believe other people should have their peace and tranquility and pursue their happiness the way they want to. But I guess we can't have that in today's world. What did Mary say? My uncle were in the military, all of them, and they would turn over in their graves if they seen what was going on in America right now. Yeah. I can't believe it. This is what Marines dealt with overseas. Except we use live ammo. But this is in America. With the same enemies that I dealt with overseas. It's not like it's a different enemy. It's the same freaking ass enemy. Unbelievable. I mean, we didn't even need a Trojan horse. Our politicians said, screw the Trojan horse. Just come in. Hey, you need some money? We'll give you an EBT card. I'll always have money on it forever. Oh, you need a play. Where did you want to go, by the way? 50 years from now, or 50 years after we get this problem settled, the generations, the couple generations that was born after this, after we sit there and start bringing our culture back and raising our children right and stuff and bringing America back to the way it was, they're going to look at us and say, what the frick was wrong with you people? When did you go insane like the Germans during Nazi? When did the Germans finally go insane to sit there and go along with all this shit? I know the day we went insane. I can tell you exactly the day. It was a Saturday. What Saturday might have that been? That was a Saturday. I know it was a Saturday when toilet paper ran out. That was the day this country lost its fucking mind. When toilet paper ran out in 2020. Being a prepper, I'd have to worry about such shit. But that's the day America lost its fucking mind. I firmly believe that. I can trace it back to that day. It was a Saturday when the country ran out of toilet paper. I don't remember the date. I just remember it was a Saturday. Crazy time, huh? What's okay? Blame Obama for what? This is the thing. Everybody, if you come to this channel, I'm not left or right. I don't see the country through a red lens or a blue lens. I see it through two clear lenses like the founding fathers did. Okay? I'm a constitutional conservative. I don't follow no donkey or elephant. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I voted for Trump. Never again. I'll never vote again in this country. Ever again. Except that if it's to dissolve the government, federal government, I'll vote for that. Wouldn't it be nice to have a ballot initiative on the ballot to vote to dissolve the government? How many votes do you think that would get? nationwide to dissolve the government. If it passed, that next day the government was dissolved, and we'd sit there and hold new elections, reinstate the Constitution. And if one politician said democracy, you're not allowed to be a politician because you don't understand our constitutional republic. I love politicians. We're a democracy. They don't. This is why our country's so fucked up, because they're trying to change our constitutional republic into a democracy. It's not working very well, is it? Anyway. Hi, are you a Lion King fan? I like the cartoon. I had kids during that time, right? So I got to go to Walt Disney's when the cartoons like The Little Mermaid and The Lion King and all them were coming out. And Aladdin, I thought that one was good. But yeah, I like the cartoons. So anyway. When Walt Disney used to, I remember when I was, it probably was like 1971. I was probably 4, maybe 5. And my grandma took me she lived in a little town, and they still had the small town theater with the balcony. Back then they had a balcony because the movies was a night out for the family. But I remember she took me to Bambi. Remember seeing that with my grandma back in the theater back then and stuff. But that was the first movie I really remember going to, was with my grandma to see Bambi. So back when Walt Disney was good. Walt Disney was a Marine too, got dishonorably discharged, and he hung his discharge upside down in his office just to prove a point. Interesting history about people, isn't it? But I've gone over an hour. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. Like I say, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and the bell notification. Help this channel grow. Because we need to sit there and start coming together, people. You're in these big cities and you're allowing this to happen, and no neighbors are the cops won't do nothing, and you neighbors aren't going to get together to save your own neighborhoods. Then get out of the city. And this is the thing, the good citizens of the cities need to take their cities back. Okay? You have the military take over the city. Both sides are going to be controlled. And that's what the other side doesn't realize. Both sides are going to be controlled. Anyway, we'll see what happens tonight with the craziness, but you're just going to move to another city. These younger generation are really have a lack of education. And every night they have these protests and stuff and going nuts shows me the lack of education. And just, they don't even act human anymore. They don't act human. I always said that the human race, I think, is Homo sapien is splitting into 2 species now. Whether it be the juice shot they got or whatever, it's splitting into 2 species. Because there's no way human beings have never been so fucking different before in ever history, where human beings have been so freaking on separate ends of common sense. So anyway, but if you live in the big city, be careful. Road rage. If you have a Trump bumper sticker, MAGA bumper sticker, anything that's going to set these people off, just something you got to be extra careful these days. Yes, I think you should walk around in fear, take it off over these people. Screw that. But just have a way of protecting yourself in case, I don't know, your car gets surrounded by these morons and they see your Trump sticker on your car. Floor it. If your proper channel, the one where you are riding the horse and having the firelight at night, yeah, that's me. I was gonna have my fireside chat tonight, but the wind was too windy. So maybe I'll have it this weekend. The weather isn't supposed to be a little cooler, but Yeah, fireside chat, that's me and riding the horses. Like I say, I can feel and hear freedom out here, okay? It's just, you're surrounded by freedom. And I really feel bad about these people that have to endure this in these cities. You need to do something about it. Like out here, like I say, we live in a small county. Leave it to Beaverland. And there's Democrats and Republicans. But we will all band together and fight this from ever coming into our county. I may not get along with the sheriff or think too highly of the sheriff's department here for whatever reason. But they got a job to do, okay? Nobody. I mean, I don't want to be stopping cars at two in the morning and stuff. Fuck that. Okay, that's dangerous. But I tell you what, I'll stand abreast to them if the shit comes to this county. I can have their back. I'm going to be standing right beside them because we will band together to keep that shit out of this place. Like I say, when I got to start locking my door and taking the keys out of my vehicle, it's time to leave. Yeah, I don't have to lock my doors or take my keys out of my vehicle. And, having to see other parts of this country that are just being tore apart, well, I think something needs to be done about it because it's not fair that I get to live in this, leave it to Beaverland, where our politicians are pushing the mindless folks in these big cities to sit there and just be at each other's throats. Anyway, appreciate everybody being here tonight. Like I say, hit the subscribe, the bell notification, and the thumbs up. Check out my other content on this channel. I mean, I know my people like my content because there was one time, I've had a time where I have hundreds, but this one time I had 350 of my videos that were played in 1 hour. 350 different videos that were played of mine in 1 hour, my shorts and stuff. And then, of course, what does YouTube do? Hammer down. The last thing they want, if they're all in cahoots on both sides together, and it's nothing but an all-star wrestling match where it's entertainment for them and getting us to pit us against each other, and they're all on the same side, the last thing they want us to do is start talking to each other and figuring that out. Because if all the anger that we have at each other, towards each other, and I'm not saying the anger, like I say, my oath was to protect all Americans, but between MAGA and the liberals, all that anger is directed at the real enemy, the government don't stand a chance. And that's why they can't have us talking or agreeing on anything. They always got to keep the arguments going and the division going. Always something new. People are getting along too good. Oh, we got to divide them now. That group's getting along too good. Oh, we got to divide them now. I mean, how many different minorities now do we have in this country compared to what we had 30 years ago? Crazy time. Hey, Mary Mc... Hi. Hidden Curious, what's your European ancestry? I am German and Irish. My grandparents' name were Kettner and McCarroll, McCarroll and Doyle on the Irish side, and Schiller and Kettner on the German side. So I'm 50-50. I grew up in a small southern town in Minnesota. If you ever watched Little House on the Prairie, I actually went to school in Walnut Grove for 2 years and stuff, but that was the area I grew up in. Of course, it wasn't filmed there. I was filmed in California, but that's part of Minnesota I came from. So anyway, German and Irish, sir. So that means that I work hard, and being Irish, they sit there and took advantage of me. I remember, pure Irishmen got treated just a little bit better than slaves did. They only got treated for slaves as long as their indentured servitude was happening. What, 2 to 4 years? I remember this part of Little Austin Prairie where they're on this railroad carriage, right? And Charles and Mr. Edwards was on there with this black guy and this Irish guy that was prejudiced, right? Well, anyway, the conductor kicked the black guy off into the freight car and stuff. Says you can't be in there. So Charles and Mr. Edwards went out there to join him, and then that Irish guy comes out a little bit later and they said he kicked me out too. He found out I was Irish. Crazy time. But anyway, see, we used to make jokes about that. It used to be funny. Teasing somebody about their heritage. But it was all good, clean fun. Now everybody's so sensitive. Anyway, hope everybody enjoyed the live stream tonight. I can see I'm losing people. But anyway, like I say, check out the channel. You may like it. Anyway, this is Tom with Hidden Truths, and I'll see you guys this weekend because, like I said, I think I'm going to up my content a little bit because things are getting crazy. Anyway, this is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.